I've had this request come up quite a few times and I'm finally doing it now. I get questions like, how should I start an email? How should I end an email in Finnish? And as a note, I'd like to say, when I was researching the official guidelines, which there is one, and I'll link it down below, you can go read it. It is in Finnish though. There is some difference in opinions, even amongst Finnish people. What I'm presenting you is the general consensus here. First up, we'll talk about how to start your emails in Finnish. What greetings are commonly used? I think the most widely used greeting in emails in general is the word hey. You can start your email simply saying hey. You can add an exclamation mark, or you don't need to, just go to the next line and start with a capital letter, start typing out your email. As you might have come to realize, Finnish is a very simple and direct language most of the time, and although hey might sound quite casual to you, hey is actually generally the best way to start your email, whether or not you know the person you are sending your email to. Therefore, using hey as an opening to your email is very neutral, and you can use it in so many different situations. Is there any situation you can't use hey to open your email with? I would say maybe only in very formal situations, such as sending an email, I don't know, to the president, the prime minister, but in general, hey works just fine. Another way you can start your email is by saying hey and then that person's name. So in Finnish, you would usually use a person's first name if you have that information available. So you might say, hey, Tiina. But adding a name to your greeting is optional in Finnish, so if you don't know the name or just don't want to use it, it's fine just to leave it as hey, but if you know the name, you can just say, hey, Tiina, and then start the message. If you're wondering about using things like Mr. and Mrs., for example, in English-speaking countries, these types of titles are often used to indicate, I guess, respect or to sound more formal, but in Finnish the equivalent would be herra ja rouva, and I can say that is extremely formal, and I have never really seen that in any of the emails I've come across. I think it's quite uncommon to use these titles in your emails. Those formal situations, what you could use is saying hyvä and then their name. For example, hyvä Tiina or hyvä Tiina last name. So using something like hyvä plus their name, this is for the most formal situations, or even one step further, this would be reserved for president or that level formality. You might say arvoisa and then their title, like arvoisa presidentti or something like this. But that is the extreme case of formality, and you wouldn't really need to use this much unless you're regularly emailing with that titled or that ranked people. What about signing off? What phrase should I use? I think one of the most common phrases is to use simply terveisin. Terveisin. It's quite simple and it's to the point, and it can even be abbreviated to just a T with a dot. So what I personally usually use in my work mails is I will just write terveisin, comma, and then my first and last name at the end of the email. That'll be for my first correspondence with someone. Then for my follow-up correspondences, I'll usually just write the T with a dot. So that, I would say, is the most common sign-off. Another extremely common sign-off is ystävällisin terveisin, and then your first and last name after that, which means kind of like friendly greetings or something like this. This can also be abbreviated to YT dot, and then your first and last name. I guess to me personally, it sounds a bit warmer, and if you don't want to sound as businesslike, you might use this version instead of just simply terveisin, but it's really up to personal preference, and there is a bit of discussion which one people prefer in general amongst Finnish people, but really I guess it's based on just your personal preference and your taste. So choose whichever one you like the best. They can be used in the same way, in the same situation. For signing offs, however, if you want to show a bit of personality, or you're the type to kind of play around a bit with the sign offs, or you're on a bit more friendly terms with the other person, or just in general, you like doing this kind of stuff, there are a lot of different sign-offs that you could potentially use for slightly less formal situations. A lot of them have something to do with some kind of seasonal occurrence or the weather. These types of examples could go on forever and ever and ever. You can basically take any weather occurrence or time of the year and make it into like a sign-off greeting. Actually, my friend Jasmine made a few really funny reels about this. I'll also leave them in the description box down below if you want to check them out because they're pretty funny. But basically, the main point of this video is Finnish people aren't usually super uptight about this kind of stuff, and they're not usually going to be very judgy about what type of greeting or sign-off you're going to be using. So try not to overthink it or stress about what to use or if you're being rude or not. I don't think Finnish people in general are going to get offended no matter what, unless you're like literally writing something rude. If you just pick a general polite greeting, they're gonna like not think much about it. 99% of the time, I just use a simple hey and terveisin or a T-dot or kiitos, and it's been perfectly fine in my experience. Let me know in the comments what your experience has been. If you work in Finland or study in Finland, what are the greetings or sign-offs that you tend to use? Because I know there can be a lot of variation or different opinions amongst people, but this was just my opinion and what I would suggest. But if you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments why. Mutta kiitos taas todella paljon, kun katsoitte tämän videon ja nähdään ensi videossa. Moikka!